Having a phone conversation on the cell phone. You have two a phone in each hand.
Okay, it's in my ear.
It's in your ear, so you're holding both phones in both hands. Yes.
Yes.
I'm Jess Puddister, and this is Walking the Walk, a podcast about climate action in Newfoundland and Labrador. Today, we're talking about a small community on the west coast of Newfoundland with a unique past. The cleanup of the American base in Stephenville and the flooding that happened in 2005 that destroyed 100 homes and caused a lot of contamination there really has created a heightened consciousness around the environment. They're ahead of the curve on municipal services as it is and are keen to keep pushing the line. Ted Gracie wears a lot of hats at the Town of Stephenville. He's got his sights set on reducing solid waste down by 50% and a whole slew of other carbon-reducing projects. When the closest landfill is a 4-hour drive from town, you need to get creative about cutting down on carbon. Hey Ted, how's it going?
Good, yourself?
Good, thanks. Thanks so much for taking some time to have a chat with me today.
No problem.
Cool. So you work over in the Town of Stephenville.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your role with the town.
I fill multiple roles. Right now I am the Director of Municipal Services, which is the Superintendent of Public Works, the Head of Public Works. I also am the Planning and Development Officer, and I'm in charge of residential and commercial permits. And as of last year, I became part of the Green Team, which is a group of made up of council, residents, and staff to deal with green initiatives for the town. Okay,
that sounds like a pretty complex role. That's a lot of hats you're wearing. Can you kind of like set the scene for us a little bit? Like, what's the Town of Stephenville like?
We're an urban. Well, obviously we're very, very urban, but we're more of an economic hub for the Bay St. George region. So even though we have a population of under 8,000 people, we are the service hub for about 30,000 people. So primarily we're more commercial than industrial based, although we do have a bit of industry here. And we are a full service community. We have water and sewer. And of course, with that, we have a water supply and sewage treatment. And we provide services for a couple of outlying unincorporated areas.
Okay.
And other than that, I mean, I can spew a bunch of demographics about the town, but we're what we would consider a mid-sized large town in Newfoundland.
Okay, so maybe like, can you give us a bit of a description, sort of like geographically, like where is Stephenville situated, and what are the kind of natural systems?
Okay, we're located on the west coast. We're actually at the juncture between the southwest coast and the west coast of Newfoundland on the island. And we're about an hour outside of Cornbrook, an hour and a half from Deer Lake, which is an international airport, and just over an hour and a half from the ferry, which is the other direct link to the province. We have a port facility here. We have an airport here. We were formerly a mill town, but the Abitibi closed down in 2005, and we were originally and still half the community is on in that area. We were an American base that closed in 1966.
Okay, so you guys, you saw an importance, I guess, for you to start participating in climate change response. And yes, you got involved with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities FCM T2050 project with NIA and Fundamental Inc.
Yes.
What motivated you guys to sign up for that?
Well, at the council level, one of the councillors was at a meeting of the SCM, and I guess the topic came up, and they expressed an interest in becoming a part of it. And of course, after that, once the program rolled out, we signed on immediately. So we were one of the original 6 in Newfoundland that signed on. And that councillor came back and brought it to council, of course, and they all agreed. So we were all on board with joining. So,
what do you think? I mean, I think it's fair to say maybe not every community would have the same reaction to a counselor coming back and sharing an opportunity like this. Like, why? What's the motivation to move forward?
We might be a little bit on the unique side when it comes to that. We were not long before this program came about. We had just made an announcement. We'd gone public with the first volunteer carbon credits.
Okay.
For Newfoundland and Labrador. The Town of Stephenville was the first generator.
Wow, that's super impressive.
And that's our wastewater treatment facility. So we were kind of heading down that path for dealing with green initiatives anyway. So when this came about, of course, we took advantage of it.
What does that mean, Ted? Like what you just described?
For the voluntary carbon credits?
Yeah.
Well, we are decreasing our carbon footprint, and actually we're generating credits. We're gone beyond the carbon footprint of the facility. So it's generating actual credits, but in Newfoundland, they're voluntary credits. They're not mandatory credits as of yet. So
right.
Where they're voluntary, of course, there's a different market value on them and so forth. But the big thing is that I mean we have a program here, or a process here, that's actually green to the point that it's generating credits versus being a carbon producer.
Okay, so there's more, I guess, carbon being locked in the ground than the amount of carbon going out. That's what that means.
No, not really. It's a process, so it's not really. It's converting it. So I wouldn't say it's locked into the ground. It's just it's being scrubbed, same as the tree would. Our facility is doing it, but it's doing it with the wastewater and the atmosphere.
Okay, and when you say facility, like what facility are you talking about?
We have a large subsurface wetland facility. It's Abydos.
Okay.
We were the first that they set up. We weren't the first operational, but we were the first one that they started. We ran into some troubles when we had the flooding back in 2005, and we had some engineering issues getting it kick-started. But as of 2009, it was up and running fully. And as I said, by 2016, we were generating carbon credits.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you guys are really like an early adopter on some of these like climate change mitigation efforts.
Absolutely.
What do you think is the reason for that? Like, why has that been such an important thing to Stephenville from 20 years ago almost now?
I don't know if it's a bit triggered from our history, where we were an American base and there was a certain level of contamination that went with that.
Uh-huh.
So the cleanup process started a long time ago. So I guess it just snowballed from there, that we continued to be environmentally oriented. Plus the flooding that we had in 2005. We had a major flood that took out over 100 homes.
Whoa.
And the contamination from that was quite extreme. So that had to be cleaned up as well. So like if you're already in the process of doing it, it's easier to continue.
Wow, that's so interesting to me. So basically, like coming from a place where you're dealing with a lot of issues up front, possibly like more so than, say, the average community in Newfoundland, Labrador, that really set the scene to drive it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a little easier to do it if you're already doing it over here and you just bring it, you apply it to what you're doing new, versus trying to get started from nowhere.
That's super cool. So tying it into the T2050 project, what did you guys kind of expect going into that? Like, what was your perspective of what the goals were?
Well, I knew our goals were to come up with some way to decrease our environmental footprint. Going in, I myself was leaning already towards a community composting initiative.
Okay.
Because we had been mulling it over for quite a while and approach to it, and we were waiting for Western Regional Waste Management to come up with their ideas of how we should do this, but basically the big thing for us is to decrease our solid waste. And one thing we noticed that when we went to the centralized waste management systems, when we closed all our dumps, we had a decrease in our actual tonnage. But afterwards, when the official sites opened up, when it actually went to the Western Regional Waste Management protocols, we also had another pretty significant decrease in tonnage.
Okay.
Over 20%, actually. So we were really shocked at that. And then
what drove that?
I think the fact that you could take your stuff and you didn't have to worry about cleaning it or worried about what was recyclable, and because you just drive it down the road and throw it in the dump. So the fact that now the dump is a half-hour drive away, it's there's a little bit less of that going on.
Gotcha.
And I'd like to say we've decreased the amount of indiscriminate dumping, but I can't be sure. You know what I mean? Like we know that in the areas that they normally did it, that it's decreased. But unless we actually did a full aerial video of the area to determine if there are some hidden spots that they're throwing it, I can't say that. But we do have from when we had the dump here in the town to where we are now, we're looking at about a 30% reduction in mass anyway, in not necessarily volume, but actual weights. So
you say your goal is to reduce that even further.
Yeah, I'd like to get down to 50%, which would, if I can get to a community-wide compost system, that would bring us well below that target.
So Ted, when you talk about like overall greenhouse reductions for the community, and you talked about like the desire to reduce the carbon footprint for the municipality, what sort of makes up the town's carbon footprint, and how did you arrive at the decision to prioritize the solid waste side of things?
Okay, well, prior to the Western Regional Waste Management system being implemented, we did our collection and disposal in-house. Okay. So we had the trucks, we had the facilities to dispose. We actually at one point were incinerating. Wow. So since I came with the town, that dump is closed. We've moved to contracting out the waste collection. So we kind of streamlined it in that aspect, because instead of like this community doing it and then all the adjacent communities doing it, everybody doing it separately. Generally, we're all under one contractor, and he has the ability to scale his trucks, so he can do part of ours one day and then finish in the adjacent community, finish loading the truck. So previously, we were going with, every community might have been going to the dump with 3/4 of a load. Right. Whereas now the trucks are generally going out full, because if he has space, he's going to pick it up somewhere else. Totally.
And if a truck is going 3/4 of the way full, like that's a lot more trips at the end of the day, and a lot of more carbon going into the atmosphere.
Basically, so you're looking at 33% more travel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we looked at the reduction in that aspect. So that's one part of it. It actually drove our costs down as well. So obviously there's the economic aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But also, like, waste is major, especially here. Like, people tend to be wasteful. We're generating over the normal average, or we were generating over the normal average per household, because generally it's 1 ton per household per year.
Okay.
And we were up around 1.4.
Wow.
But now we're below 1 ton, so it's great. But like I said, if we can get to the community composting portion of it, we could potentially reduce that quite significantly more.
So, it sounds like staff is on board, council's on board. What's it been like interfacing with the residents on this idea?
We haven't.
Okay.
And to be perfectly honest with you, we are still in the phase. I want to get the plant here, get it functioning. I'll have enough. I have access to enough waste and product to get the machine running without the general public's compost materials. So we want to get it here, get it working, get all the kinks figured out, and then we will implement the collection of, and we'll do a pilot collection where we will collect up to about 700 residents.
Okay, cool. Where's this machine going to go?
It's going to go I have a Public Works depot. So it's a self-contained unit, so it'll go up there, and it'll have a place for the compost material to be piled after like the actual compost, right?
Yep.
And then we're looking at the potential of offering that up to our residents as a product that they can have for free.
Wow.
And I mean, that sounds great, but we're going to generate tons and tons and tons of this. Mm-hmm. You're looking at a couple of tons a week. So
is it maybe something you could sell?
Everybody is only going to use so much. So we will probably look into if there's a viable market, like farming or whatever, or we may just use it for topsoil or even landfill cover, because we do have a local landfill site here that's a transfer site, but it does need cover. So we'll look at proper use for, or for rehabilitation of contaminated sites, stuff like that.
Wow. It sounds like a really valuable product in a place like Newfoundland, Labrador, which is mostly bedrock at the surface.
Exactly, yeah.
That's super cool. When you mentioned that you want to get the machine in place, get it up and running, by using some organics that are not coming from the residential community, like where's the material going to come from?
I'm sorry, it is coming from the residential community, but it's not coming at a voluntary basis. Like I'm going to separate it out and use it. Like I'll have some product available. The browns, I have lots, because we do spring cleanup and we pick up leaves, grass, brush.
Oh, okay.
I have a big chipper on site.
Oh, okay.
And I can work with the local waste collection contractor to work on getting organic materials.
Fantastic.
To put in to get the process started. So it'll be coming from the residents, but it won't be on a mandatory composting
Gotcha.
basis.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So Ted, at the end of the day, like once, you've got your climate action plan from the T2050 project and you've got your commercial level or community scale composting machine in place and it's running, what kind of impact is that going to have on the town's carbon footprint at the end of the day?
It should decrease our solid waste, I'm hoping, by an additional 20%, which would equate to basically, since Western Regional Waste Management started taking our garbage, to reducing our tonnage by 50%. And so that would decrease like the trucking costs, because our garbage now leaves Stephenville and goes to North Arm.
Okay.
Which is a 4-hour trip one way.
That's a long way to go.
Yeah, so there's a truck carrying that.
Yeah.
So if we send half as many trucks, we decrease our carbon footprint quite significantly that way.
So there's like trickle-down impacts on your carbon footprint. It's not just from the waste alone.
Exactly. That's right. And not only that, like we can also, like I said, we can use that product for remediation, which would decrease carbon footprint. It'll allow grass to grow. So,
how much does a machine like this cost?
The initial one we're purchasing is, I think the machine itself is around $60,000. For the whole project, it's probably close to 100.
Okay.
So because we got to ship it here, we got to get it. We have to run electrical to it, put down a pad for it to be mounted on, stuff like that. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
And has it been, I mean, fairly straightforward to figure that out budget-wise? Is it when it comes to the town's budget? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It was just a bunch of quotes. And like I said, the biggest thing was developing the action plan on and determining the viability of doing that versus other available projects.
Right. Okay. Can you tell me a bit more about that? Like, I mean, what were the other options in terms of projects on the table, and how did you arrive at?
That's as broad as long. You can look at power generation like solar or wind. You look at wetlands cleanup, just storm water treatment. There's the list is endless. Electric vehicles, electric generating power stations, like so on and so forth. Like it just it escalates. So,
of course, yeah. No, there's definitely a lot that towns can be doing on this front for sure.
Exactly, and we're doing more than what this project is putting into place as well. Like we are looking at having a electric charging station set up at our town hall, even though there is one in the community already, but it's not really being used. And we're going to have one here for plug-in hybrids and for plug-in only. And we're also looking at going forward on our light vehicle fleet, looking at plug-in hybrid technologies. So
you're going to switch over the fleet from gas combustion engines?
We can't switch over the entire fleet, but there may be an opportunity for a couple of our vehicles to be switched. Because it's very difficult to go with a plug-in hybrid that's economical, like that actually isn't hard on fuel. Like I think most plug-in hybrid trucks have the large V8 in them, and they're actually not better on fuel than the trucks we have. Right. So yeah, we're looking at the opportunity to replace, like say, instead of having a pickup, having a hybrid sport utility or something like that. And it's more on the administrative side than it would be on the actual work trucks. But if you want to look at the green initiatives on the work trucks, the Tier 4 emission systems on the new vehicles, on when you get the heavy equipment, it's pretty much taking care of that anyway for going to a greener alternative. I mean, these machines, when you put them in our shop now, we can run them in the shop with the doors closed. Like they're running that clean. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Ted, it sounds like you guys are really ahead of the curve here, and you're thinking about all the different things that a town should be thinking about when it comes to responding to climate change. What would you say to other towns who want to start on their own journey of responding to climate change?
I really don't know. It's a long road. It can be a bit challenging, but if you don't mind a little bit of a challenge, the rewards are worth it.
Do you have any advice for a town that is starting kind of from scratch, and all of this might feel a little intimidating? Any kind of words of advice? Yes,
network.
Get
a hold of people like yourself and Fundamental Inc. and other towns that have participated. Get the information from them as much as you can.
That's fantastic, Ted. That's really interesting stuff. Thanks so much for taking time today.
No problem.
That's it for our episode this week. It was produced by me and Luke Quinton of Electric Ocean. Thanks to Ted Gracie, our guest, and Ashley Smith, Managing Director of Fundamental Inc. Our theme music is Visions of This Earth Before Our Time by Botany, courtesy Western Vinyl. This project was made possible through a grant from the T2050 initiative, in partnership with the Newfoundland and Labrador Environmental Industries Association. The Transition 2050 initiative is offered through the Municipalities for Climate Innovation program, which is delivered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and funded by the Government of Canada. This initiative contributes to the FCM ICLEI Partners for Climate Protection program to help municipalities reduce greenhouse gas emissions and take action on climate change. PCP is a partnership between FCM and ICLEI, local governments for sustainability.